Hi guys, M2K King,
And joining him here is MVG ScAtt.
and here are some things we think are missing from Smash Ultimate that we would like to see added.
I have a couple of things that I'd love to see added to the game that are not quite up to par or are just flat out missing from the game, and hopefully you guys will enjoy these thoughts as well.
One really nice addition for Smash Ultimate that I think would be really good if they would add, that I've been waiting for them to add for a long time, is a hazards toggle. First off, in training mode, you always have the hazards to be turned on, which, you know, can be inconvenient if you're labbing on like Kalos or Pokemon Stadium and stuff, and you're just trying to do practice on the default transformation, and it just transforms, and it's like, oh. But even more important is the versus mode. There's a lot of situations where, like, you would want to just, man, I wish I could just put my cursor at the top of the screen where there's like 100 stages. I wish I could just click an on-off switch for hazards. That'd be really convenient, you know? Like, it could just be right there. It would be so convenient. And then even in Japan.
Oh, so good to be able to just think about the amount of stages that we're passing up on purely because it's a little bit inconvenient to go between the menus. The most famous one, Fountain of Dreams, of course.
Smashville.
Smashville's another one, you know? Not exactly the most common stages nowadays just because we don't have hazards on.
So in Japan, they actually have hazards on Smashville for a lot of the time. I've actually, at least like a year ago, I saw a lot of their Smashville actually had the moving platforms. I don't know if it's still the case now, but it certainly was at some turns like a year ago. And then America never wants to experiment with that. And I get it. You don't want to go back into the rules just to remember to change hazards just for one stage. It's easier just to be consistent, right? Especially when that one stage is the outlier. But if it was just at the top of the stage list, it'd be a lot faster and more convenient. And it might only seem like a few seconds at once, but then you add that every single time, every single set, and then people will forget things. It's like, man, this would all just be solved so much easier if that button was like at the top of the screen. And that would just be, I think that's a really good addition that's been long overdue. Another addition for Smash Ultimate that I would really like to see is the music not resetting in training mode. So you know how I'm like making a guide on a character like Sephiroth or something, and I just want to listen to some Genova or some One Wing Angel or something like that, right? But then it's like, oh, well, I want to listen to this amazing song, right? But at the same time, I also need to like reset if I want to reset the position, reset the damages, either my damage, their damage, position, or whatever. I would do that often, and sometimes you just don't want to have this song start from the beginning again. That would make YouTube videos a lot more convenient. Or just when you're just in training mode for like an hour, just labbing, and you just want to listen to some chill music, and then it's like, oh, well, I wanted to reset to test things, but then I don't want to listen to the beginning of the song the whole time. I want the song to continue. I mean, it's not really like a big deal, but it would take so little programming effort compared to this other stuff to just be like, hey, don't reset the music when you reset on training mode. Speaking of music, another good music-related addition would be when Smash Ultimate has those one-on-one tourneys, or even if it's a free-for-all tourney, one of those special event tourneys. I tend to finish my first matches in like, you know, like sometimes like under a minute, right? And then you have to wait like 3 more minutes for everyone else to finish their matches because it doesn't move on until everyone finishes their games, of course. But then you're just going to be on that screen for a while where it shows the bracket. And it'd be really nice if you could just listen to any song or pick whatever song you want. Just have some control over which songs you want played there. Instead, you have to listen to the same beats over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, I think it would also be nice, in addition to that, to have a small training mode section, sort of like they do in Quick Play, where in between games you go to a training or practice room where you can just kind of mess around and wait until the next game, instead of just having to wait for the tedious music to play and for everybody else in the tournament to finish.
For training mode, I think there's some other options that I think would be nice to make it convenient. One thing would be showing the actual hitboxes, and another thing would be DI-specific options for the AI. In things like Melee and things with like Uncle Punch, 20XX, and Slippy and other types of things, you could do things where you could set the AI to always either do away DI, toward DI, survival DI, or random DI. And things like that help a lot for practicing combos instead of the computer just not DIing at all, which makes it hard to tell when certain combos even work or not. For example, I was practicing some Sephiroth combos with the Nair, and I learned some 0 to death combos, or so you would think. And then the next day I had Domo. I gave Domo the controller and be like, hey, can you actually DI away from this combo? And I realized that the third Nair never even comboed. But on the computer in training mode, since they don't DI, it seems like it's a zero def combo, but then it's like one of those things that only are amazing with no DI. And it's much easier to understand and learn these things and these situations and to practice them if you had the computer able to DI the way you want. Then you can actually practice different types of scenarios and improve yourself.
Additionally, I think it would also be nice to have some sort of system to show frame advantage on block specifically. It's pretty hard to practice your spacing in a way that allows you to be as safe as possible while just visually looking at your character. I think it would be nice to see how much frame advantage you have, or just have a little display that says, plus or minus a couple of frames or so to actually show when and where's the exact spacing you need to be to play out in a certain scenario that may happen only in game, but it would be super useful to be able to practice it when you are by yourself, when you only have a computer, and when you only have them shielding at a certain scenario.
Another thing to add is they could have a mode in training mode where the computer, when their shield is hit, they always try to buffer a shield grab as soon as possible. If they would just do that, that would be very convenient in a lot of situations, because then you can learn not only your spacing, but also if you can what you can do. Like, can you do nair to jab with this character in this matchup on this height of hitting their shield and stuff like that, and then you'd be able to lab those situations instead, and you can actually know what's safe or not by having them just immediately shield grab the moment the computer's shield is touched. Melee training mode options in the recent years have had some options to do that type of stuff, and it'd be really nice to see something like that in Ultimate. Another thing that would be nice for Ultimate would be leaderboards.
Yeah, leaderboards in particular would definitely flesh out the competitive scene a little bit more on the online side of things. Consider, Elite Smash is Elite Smash. We do have GSP, and it's not necessarily the most proficient way to display or determine skill. But I think for those of us that do play competitive Smash, and for those of us that do enjoy a nice 1v1 session, we would like to know where we stack up against others in the world, especially who's the number one spot online, who is the hidden Wi-Fi boss that could be looming. But we don't have anything like that at the moment. However, a leaderboard would be a nice way to, again, gauge your skill versus others, as well as the top level in the game at the moment.
Speaking of GSP, I think it's pretty dumb that when you're fighting somebody online and they decide to rage quit out before the match completes, they lose their GSP, but you don't get any. And I think in situations like those, you should at least get the GSP. If they're going to lose their GSP and they're just going to rage quit, especially if you're destroying them, you should at least get yours. Another good addition for Smash Ultimate would be the buffer system toggle and a short hop toggle. So basically, everyone knows about the buffer system at this point. It makes you do things like double grab and double roll. Like if you shield, for example, and you're shielding with the R button, and you tap right on the control stick twice, you actually roll twice, even if you tap them right in succession near the very beginning of your first roll. That's just one easy example I can show where it's obviously you don't want to actually do that, and other games won't be doing that type of stuff. And especially if you're used to other Smash games, it'd be nice to, keep that type of muscle memory and stuff. What if I want to DI this way, just as a backup plan and stuff. Now, I get it. If you're new to Smash as a series and stuff, you can have it on. You can even have the default setting for all these, easy to pick up settings to be on. But for a more serious competitive player, you should, in my opinion, you should have an option to turn that stuff off, because I think that will help at a high level. And it also helps with the habits. Also, another thing would be the short hop toggle. If you do a short hop, obviously if you press X and A at the same time, or X and a C stick at the same time, you do your aerial as soon as possible. But the problem with that is you can't full hop aerial as fast as possible. The game doesn't let you. You have to jump and then wait an extra frame and then do your aerial. Doing a rising aerial the way you can in other Smash games is not actually possible in Smash Ultimate. And a toggle would help make that possible.
Additionally, because of the toggle because of short hop not being able to be toggled in the first place, it does make it quite frustrating to do some basic combos with certain characters. It makes it a little bit harder to space moves in exactly the same way that you want, which is why, there's some mechanics that have been developed for the game, competitively speaking, such as attack canceling to allow you to space a little bit better, but it still doesn't quite allow you to have the freedom that you had in the previous Smash games. So it would just be something that's nice to have off, especially if you're used to playing the Smash games, and especially if you want to optimize your play as much as you possibly can.
One of the things I want the most of all by far is less input delay. So in a nutshell, this game has about 6 to 7 frames input delay, more or less, and Interestingly enough, ever since the Nintendo 64 version, every consecutive Smash game got more input delay than the previous one, if I'm not mistaken. And so it actually feels like when you press a button, you have to wait like a while for it to appear on the screen if you're not used to that. For example, if you're used to Melee or you come from like Melee or like the older games, and then you press a button in this game, you're really going to notice it immediately because it's quite a few frames different from what you're normally doing, and vice versa as well. So that makes switching between games harder, but it makes you question like your reactions. It's like, okay, normally I would react here in a different Smash game at a certain position, like, oh, they're in the air, let me intercept them at this point. But then because of input delay, you're scared to trust your reactions. And I think if they nerfed input delay, what they would be doing as a result, like if they reduce the input delay, what they'd be doing as a result is increasing the skill and increasing the fun of the game. Another thing that I'd really like to see added, which to me is of equal importance to having less input delay, is having better online. Now, I know this is pretty obvious, and Nintendo has said they've tried to improve the online. Frankly, it's just not enough. Like, I don't notice a substantial difference between now and, like, a year ago. And since they have said they've improved it multiple times, assuming that's true, I feel like it should be more noticeable by now, in my opinion. Now, rollback netcode is obviously what everyone would think to talk about, right? Because it's, like, the best you can get for online. That may or may not be possible at this point, but for the next game at least, or when the next system comes out, or whatever, I definitely think rollback should be a very high, super top level priority for them. Even if they can't do that now, just do something else at least. Maybe have a dedicated server or some other way to try to improve the online, because it can get very frustrating how much input delay there is, and it just makes it feel like a game where you just run away and throw projectiles and do tactics that would not work online. It makes it feel like a very different game. And feeling less like that, or at least less separation between the two would be really nice.
From Nintendo's standpoint, it would make more sense at this moment, especially given what's going on, to have a better online service, considering how much more the market base could grow just from that. From a player standpoint as well, it would feel nice to have consistency in the game, and it would feel nice to be able to have that interactivity that you normally do have offline. Kind of going back to, having less input delay in general, it's nice to be able to react in certain situations. It's nice to be able to see and recognize the situation at a certain point and go, hey, I can react to this. I know that this hitbox is coming, and not have to just sit there and take it. It's super frustrating for a lot of players to, see a Sonic spin dash past them for the 5,000th time. And even though they know it's coming, it's almost impossible to punish just because of that extra little delay. So you do have to question your reaction time, not only because of the inherent input delay that's on the Switch, but because of the extra delay that comes with online play. So this would just be a nice feature to have for not only players themselves, but I think for Nintendo as well. It would be a great way for them to grow their market base.
All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let us know what you thought in the comments below, and let us know what other types of content you guys want. As well as that, if you would like to sign up for coaching or sign up for my Turn series, this will also be linked in the YouTube description below, as well as ScAtt's information.
So if you want to keep up with me, you can catch me at twitch.tv/ScAtt77 or twitter.com/ScAtt227.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, and I'll see you guys next video.
See you later.